Thomas and friends, making tracks to great destinations.
Dear Christopher, here is your friend Thomas the Tank Engine. He wanted to come out of his station yard and see the world. These stories tell you how he did it. I hope you will like them because you helped me to make them. Your loving Daddy.
The island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams, and lots of trees where the birds sing. There are windmills and a coal mine and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the island of Sodor.
Slow and steady, Thomas. Fall have came to the island of Sodor. It had been a stormy and windy night. Tiles have fallen off the station roof at Napper. Telegraph poles have blown down. Branches have fallen out to the line. And the wind had blown off the windmill. All over the island of Sodor, the storm and the wind had made a terrible mess. Sir Topham Hatt had came to Timothy's sheds. The storm had caused confusion and delay, he boomed, so you all must be really useful engines. I will be the most useful engine, boasted James. No, I will, sniffed Gordon. I am the fastest. I will be to do the most journeys. Thomas was hoping that he can finish his special delivery as quickly as possible. He wanted to finish the first one to be done and be the most useful engine of all. Soon, all the engines were steaming away from Timothy's sheds. James went to Napper Yard to collect the workmen. Gordon went to the goods yard to collect telegraph poles. Toby trundled to collect new roof tiles. Percy went to collect new parts for the windmill. And Thomas puffed to Merwin Station. Farmer McCall was waiting for Thomas. Next to him was boxes and boxes of newly laid eggs. These fresh eggs are needed across the island, said Farmer McCall. The station staff quickly loaded Thomas's freight cars with the eggs. And Thomas was raring to go. My eggs must be delivered safely, said Farmer McCall, so I'm coming to make sure that you go slowly and carefully. Slowly, said Thomas sadly. He wanted to finish his job quickly and make lots of journeys. Thomas gave one sad toot of his whistle and puffed slowly and carefully away. Thomas trundled on. He puffed and chuffed as gently as he could. Thomas had to stop at the single. He had to wait for Gordon to puff past. And there was Gordon. Fastest and best, he chirped. Gordon looked very happy. Thomas, meanwhile, felt very sad. Thomas arrived at Great Waterton Station. James was there. He was carrying workmen. They were fixing the station house roof. The station staff unloaded 4 boxes of eggs for the village store. "How many journeys you done?" asked James brightly. "This is my first," said Thomas. "Ha!" laughed James. "I'm on my 3rd journey. I'm as red as a rocket." He steamed away. Now Thomas was upset. He wanted to go faster more than ever. Soon the eggs were unloaded, and Thomas puffed slowly and gently out of the station. Thomas puffed across the countryside, very, very slowly. Then Thomas saw Toby taking on water right by the signal box. His freight cars were full of roof tiles. Toby was having a wonderful time. "I'm on my 2nd journey," he said proudly. Thomas felt very sad, and then Toby rushed past him and made Thomas want to go faster than ever. "Even Toby has made more journeys than me," he said. "It's not fair. I could go as fast and careful." So Thomas wanted to go faster. He started to pick up speed. "Fast and careful, he said proudly. But Thomas was going so fast, he wasn't being careful. Farmer McCoy was worried. "Slow down, Thomas," he called. "You'll break my eggs." But Thomas was going so fast, he didn't hear Farmer McCoy, and he wasn't slowing down. He went even faster. Then the eggs started to bounce in the boxcar, and Thomas changed lines. He went over the arched stone bridge and caused the biggest bump. Then the eggs were breaking. Then Thomas came to a junction. He had to slow down. "Stop, Thomas!" cried Farmer McCoy. "You have broken my eggs." This time Thomas did hear Farmer McCoy and screeched to a halt. "Cinders and ashes!" he cried. But Farmer McCoy was still cross. Thomas felt bad. "I'm sorry," he said. "I wanted to be really useful." Farmer McCoy checked his eggs. Luckily, the few were broken. Now Thomas knew he had to go slowly now, so he puffed as slowly and gently as he could. Thomas headed to Vickerstown Station. Suddenly, he heard an impatient whistle. James was right behind him. He blew his whistle loudly. Thomas knew he didn't want to speed up. "Sometimes going slowly can be just as important as going fast," said Thomas. and he puffed carefully on. That evening, Sir Topham Hatt came to Timothy's sheds. He looked very happy. "You have all worked hard and been very useful engines," he said. The engines all looked very happy, except for Thomas. He was thinking about the broken eggs. "I will remain one journey, sir," he said, "and I've broken one of Varmer Cole's eggs." "But most of the eggs were delivered safely," boomed Sir Topham Hatt. "Farmer Cole gave me the broken ones to me, and I love having scrambled eggs for my breakfast." "You, Thomas," he added, "are a really useful engine." Thomas just beamed.
The island of Sodor is a wonderful place. There are lots and lots of engines. Who's that puffing along the track? It's Thomas! Thomas is a bright blue tank engine with red stripes. He has 6 small wheels, a short funnel and dome, and the number 1 painted in yellow on his tanks. Thomas is always busy and is especially happy when he's with his carriages, Annie and Clarabelle. Thomas knows everyone on the island of Sodor, but he does have one special friend, and that's Percy. One day, Sir Topham Hatt told all the engines that the railway inspector was coming. He would give a special prize to the best turned-out engine. Gordon, James, and Emily were all sure a big engine would win the prize, but Thomas and his best friend Percy hoped they might win. The big engines laughed at them. Thomas and Percy had to work at the quarry. By the end of the day, Percy and Thomas were very, very dirty. Percy was sure they would never win first prize now. Thomas wanted to cheer his friend up, so they raced to the washdown. But when they arrived, Gordon, James, and Emily all looked like the smartest engines on the railway. Now Thomas was worried, but his friend Percy cheered him up. When Thomas and Percy arrived at the coaling plant, they were surprised. James had biffed into a freight car. Now all the big engines, Sir Topham Hatt, and the inspector were covered in coal dust. But not Thomas and Percy. They won first prize, and each had a ribbon. Thomas knew he couldn't have done it without his friend Percy. Sometimes you need to rely on your friends. One day, Thomas was picking up telephone engineers. They were to mend the telephone poles. A great storm had blown them down. Then Thomas saw something wonderful. Edward told him about an old story. It said that there was something magical at the end of a rainbow. Thomas huffed and puffed all over the island. He was looking for the end of the rainbow. Thomas was so busy, he didn't have time to say hello to his friends. And he didn't have time to help his friend. Then there was trouble. Thomas hadn't seen the telegraph pole. Thomas was stuck. He thought none of his friends would help him. But Thomas was wrong. All Thomas's friends passed on the news that he was in trouble. In no time, Harvey arrived to pull Annie and Clarabelle back onto the rails. Now Thomas didn't want to look for the end of the rainbow anymore. He wanted to be really useful. Later, Thomas puffed back to Tidmouth Sheds. There was the end of the rainbow, and there were all his friends. Thomas's friends are very important. They make Sir Topham Hatt's railway very special, and they make Thomas feel he is the luckiest steam engine ever. Thomas is ready to leave the station. He is tingling with excitement. What's Thomas pulling today? Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears. Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears and teacups. Now Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, and tablecloths. Can you remember what Thomas is tugging? Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, and tablecloths. I wonder what's next. Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, tablecloths, and a teapot. Can you remember all the things that Thomas was tugging? Let's see. Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, tablecloths, and a teapot. Can you guess where Thomas is going? Thomas is trundling to a teddy bear's tea party.